Hello and welcome back to Ignite Your Fire Within. Again, I hope you've been practicing as we begin to make our way into a nice standing series today. I'm going to invite you into your standing Tadasana. The feet anywhere from about hip distance apart to the big toe and big toe mound touching with the heels slightly separated. Encouraging that lengthening out of that foundation will gently activate the quadriceps. We hug the low belly in, working a gentle lengthening through the low back. So we draw the floating ribs together, working that strength through our core. We'll gently let the shoulders relax as the arms find themselves alongside the body. We continue to work this length through the spine as we extend the top of the head towards the sky. Gently, from our standing Tadasana, we'll begin to hinge at the hips, folding forward, allowing the knees to bend so that we can draw our stomach to our thighs in a stomach-to-thigh connection. We'll let the shoulders relax. Perhaps we can find a chest-to-knee connection. The neck will relax as the head will fall freely towards the earth here in our forward fold. And as we find this gentle forward fold, perhaps we'd like to draw opposite hand to opposite elbow. This just provides a little bit of extra mass for gravity to draw upon. And maybe we'd even like to add a gentle swaying motion, gently rocking to the left, to the right, a little bit of our ragdoll motion. And as we find ourselves evening this ragdoll motion out back to our midline, we'll gently release the hands back to the earth. Finding our lift to our half forward fold, we want to work that length into the spine, so hug the low belly in, draw the floating ribs together, reach through the chest towards the wall in front of you as we roll the shoulders gently back and down the spine. And then we'll begin to work the length into our legs. We'll strengthen through the quadriceps gently, inviting that stretch into our hamstrings. And gently we'll bend the knees, releasing back to our forward fold, our stomach to thigh connection. And as we maintain our stomach to thigh connection, gently we'll begin to draw the hands to our tailbone. Interlacing the fingers together, we'll draw the palms to touch. And then gently we'll begin to reach through the knuckles, finding the lengthening through our arms. And then perhaps we can reach the hands themselves all the way up towards the sky, drawing that stretch into our shoulder girdle. Maybe those hands can begin to fall over the head, finding that availability of this forward fold variation. And remembering that we maintain that stomach to thigh connection. And gently we'll draw the hands back to the tailbone. We'll unlace the fingers as the arms fall freely for the earth. Gently beginning to roll up one vertebrae at a time, utilizing our core strength to stack each vertebrae one atop the other. Inviting this stretch nice and slow up the back, we let the shoulders remain relaxed. They'll naturally fall back and down. We continue to work that length out of our foundation as we extend through the crown of our head, finding our standing Tadasana. And from here, we're going to step our feet approximately 4 feet apart. We're going to have the toes gently turned in, just a smidge, just a little bit. We're going to hug the low belly, and we're going to work that length out of that foundation, hugging the low belly and drawing those floating ribs together. The hands will draw to the hips as we begin to reach the chest forward, gently finding that hinge at the hips as we fold to our halfway fold. So that halfway point as we begin to fold over this wide angle. We just want to notice that we continue to hug the low belly in. We draw the floating ribs together. We maintain the length of our spine. And then gently we can draw the hands to our tailbone. Interlacing the fingers together, we'll begin to reach the chest towards the earth. Maybe the hands begin to extend up towards the sky with the palms in connection. Finding this forward fold over our wide angle with that shoulder stretch incorporated. And then gently we'll begin to reach through the chest, forward and up. Drawing to that halfway point, the hands will release back to the tailbone. We'll unlace the fingers, the hands draw back to the hips as we gently work the shoulders up and over the hips. And we're going to take our right toes, and And we're going to gently turn them out to the right at a 90-degree angle. Now, we're not just turning the toes. We want to notice how that entire leg begins to rotate open as we keep the hips parallel to the side of our mat. We'll hug the low belly and we work that lengthening through the spine. We're going to gently begin to tilt the pelvis onto its right-hand side. So we want to notice how that pelvis is what moves. We invite that stretch through the inner hip flexor and the hamstring of our right leg as we extend through that right hand, keeping the length of the right side of our body. We'll notice that this begins to activate the strength of the left side of the obliques, the intercostals, and that serratus anterior. And then gently we'll just notice that right shoulder relaxes. The right hand falls down to the leg. Whether it's the knee, the shin, the ankle, the foot, or the earth, the depth is what matters. What is important in our postures is finding the stretch through the hamstring here in this triangle, through the inner hip flexor, how we maintain the length of our spine by gently strengthening through that left oblique, the left intercostals, and serratus anterior. And then gently we'll send that left hand up towards the sky, rolling that left shoulder gently back and down to maintain the length across our collarbones. And then we'll find ourselves gently drawing those shoulders back up and over the hips. We'll turn the right toes back to the front of our mats. As we turn those left toes out to that 90 degree, finding that whole left leg gently rotates as we begin to open through that left hip. And then we'll find that we begin to tilt the pelvis onto its left-hand side, reaching through those left fingertips as we maintain the length through the left side of our body. Noticing how that stretch is invited through the inner hip flexors and the hamstring of our left leg. We strengthen through the core, that oblique of the right side, the intercostals of the ribs, and our serratus anterior. Gently, we'll begin to extend our right hand up towards the sky, rolling that right shoulder gently back and down as we continue to find that length across our collarbones. And then as we utilize the strength of our core to gently begin to draw the shoulders back up and over the hips, we'll hug the low belly in, we'll release the hands to our hips, our exhale reaches that chest forward as we begin to release all the way down into that forward fold over our wide angle. And we'll gently release the hands to the earth. Maybe we can draw those hands in between the feet in a nice line. And those hands will be about shoulder distance apart. And we just find ourselves working that length through our spine as we allow ourselves a few moments here in this wide-angled forward fold. And gently we'll begin to reach through the chest, forward and up, finding that length through the spine as we gently draw those shoulders all the way back up and over the hips. And we're going to turn those right toes again to that 90-degree angle, that whole right leg gently moves, and then we're going to start to bend our right knee. So as we bend this right knee, we either want to draw it directly above our right ankle or just behind it. We want to notice that the hips remain parallel with the earth, inviting the stretch into the inner hip flexor of our back left leg. We'll continue to hug the low belly and work the length through the spine. We draw the floating ribs together and we'll begin to extend through our fingertips. Now we really want to reach from the fingertips all the way towards that wall that's in front of you. See if you can reach out and touch it, even if it's really far away. It's that thought of extending beyond those fingertips. And we want to do that with that backhand as well. As we reach through those fingertips all the way, we start to open across those collarbones, and then let the shoulders relax. They'll gently begin to melt down the spine as we continue to draw those floating ribs together. And then maybe we'll draw the gaze over to those right fingertips, finding this warrior two. And gently, we'll find ourselves extending that right leg. The hands will gently release back down to the hips. The right toes turn forward to the front of our mat, and we'll gently invite the left toes to turn out to 90 degrees. That whole left leg gently opens as we begin to bend our left knee, drawing that knee either directly above the ankle or just behind that left ankle. And again, the hips want to remain nice and parallel to the earth. Hugging the low belly in, we work that length out of our foundation. Draw those floating ribs together. Let the shoulders relax as we extend through the fingertips. We find that extension beyond our fingertips as we try and touch the wall that's in front of us and behind us simultaneously. Really noticing how we open across the body. And then we'll begin to draw the gaze gently over towards our left fingertips, finding that nice warrior two posture. And gently we'll invite our left leg to work its way to straight. We'll draw the gaze forward, the hands release to the hips, the toe turns back to the front of our mat. We'll gently find a lengthening out of this foundation. We reach the chest forward as we begin to release back into that forward fold over our wide ankle. So as we find that length through the spine, perhaps this time we begin to walk the hands all the way through the legs, encouraging the hips to gently begin to lift up and then maybe just a touch over the ankles. So and obviously our ankles are out at about 4 feet wide, right? So we want to notice how those legs are a nice line of our ankles, and those hips begin to travel up and over the body. We find that extension out of our foundation. We allow ourselves to lengthen through the spine. And then gently we'll walk those hands back up in between the legs. We'll begin to reach through the chest forward and up, working those shoulders nice up and over those hips with an extended spine. The hands return to the hips as we find ourselves turning those right toes back out to the right hand side at that 90-degree angle. We'll invite our right knee to bend back into that warrior two foundation. Now we're going to find that we have the hands on the hips, the hug of our low belly, that lengthening through the spine, and we're going to tilt the pelvis onto its right-hand side here in this warrior foundation. And maybe we'll draw the right elbow to our right knee. We begin to extend that left hand up towards the sky, and then gently that left hand begins to work its way up and over the head, finding that length from the outsole of our left foot all the way through the leg, up the side body, as we extend through those left fingertips. And then gently we'll roll the left shoulder back and down the spine as we encourage that length across the collarbones, hugging the low belly, and we want to feel this strength through our foundation. And gently we'll swim the shoulders back up and over the hips. We'll find that right leg gently extends as we turn those right toes back to the front of our mat. And we'll take those left toes, we'll gently begin to turn them out, that 90-degree angle, finding that gentle bend of the knee back into that warrior two foundation. We'll hug the low belly in, work that length through the spine, the hands on the hips, as we begin to tilt the pelvis onto its left-hand side. And then gently we might draw that left elbow to the left knee. Our right hand begins to extend up towards the sky and gently begin to reach up and over the head as we find the length from the outsole of our right foot all the way through that right leg, lengthening through the side body as we reach through those fingertips. Because if you think about what a stretch is, it's just an extension. It's a reach, right? So we want to find how much we can extend here in this extended side angle. And then as we feel that strength ground into that foundation, the hug of our low belly, we'll gently begin to work the shoulders back up and over the hips. We'll work that length into our left leg, those left toes turn back to the front of the room. We hug the low belly in, gently reaching the chest forward as we find our way slowly and comfortably down into that wide-angled forward fold. Now this time we'll begin to walk those hands out wide. Maybe we can find the hands on the shins. Perhaps those hands can work their way down to the ankles. Maybe we can even grab the outsoles of our feet as we reach the chest towards the earth, continuing to work the length of our spine. And then we'll gently work those hands back to our midline. We'll begin to reach through the chest, forward and up. We're going to find that extension through the spine as those shoulders work their way all the way up and over our hips. We'll gently bend the knees and step the feet together. We'll find our way back to that standing Tadasana. Hugging the low belly in, we'll gently lift our right knee in line with our right hip. The hug of the low belly encourages that length out of the standing left leg all the way up through the crown of our head. Now maybe we'll take our right hand off of our hips as we draw that right hand to the inside of our right knee. Maybe we want to take the peace fingers of our right hand down to our big toe and lock that yogi lock. So we want to wrap those peace fingers around the big toe. We'll start to notice how this works a stretch through the inner hip flexors. And maybe this is where we find ourselves. maybe we can extend through that right foot, beginning to work the stretch through our hamstring. Now remember, we want to maintain the strength through that grounded left foot, that lift out of that foundation, the hug of the low belly, the draw of that strength across the base of the ribs, the shoulders continue to relax back and down. Now maybe we'll take that right foot or knee, and we begin to extend it over to the right hand side. Noticing how this opens through those inner hip flexors. It continues to encourage the hug of the low belly so that we maintain the length of our spine. And we'll notice that this is a nice standing variation of either our extended side angle or of our triangle, depending on the leg variation. And then gently, we'll draw that right foot or knee back in line with the hip. Now we're going to take that right hand off of the foot or the knee, and we're going to reach through our right heel to try and touch that wall in front of us. Notice how we strengthen through the legs, the quadriceps, the glutes of our standing leg, the hug of the low belly, that lengthening through the spine. And then gently, we'll let that right foot float down to meet the left. And we'll give the legs a nice little bit of a shake here as we encourage that left knee to lift in line with our left hip. Maybe the hand to the inside of the knee. Maybe we take those peace fingers down to the big toe because we want to find that balance of our practice. So we're going to work that variation that we found on the opposite side. As we hug the low belly and we work that length through the spine, rolling the shoulders back and down. And gently, perhaps we begin to extend the foot or the knee over to the left-hand side, opening across those inner hip flexors. We want to notice the hug of the low belly, that strength through the standing quadricep and glute as it maintains the stability of our hips. The hips try to remain as parallel to the earth as possible as we keep the length through our spine, hugging the low belly in, the draw of those obliques together that strengthens across the base of the ribs. And then gently we'll work the knee or the foot back in line with that left hip. We'll release the hand from the knee or the foot as we extend through that left heel. And we want to find that strength that already exists within our body, that strength through that left quadricep, that strength that exists through our right glute to maintain the stability and balance of our posture. And then gently we'll float that left foot down to meet the right. Finding an inhale lengthens through the spine. Our exhale gently begins to release to our forward fold, a hinge at the hips, a gentle bend in the knees, finding that stomach to thigh connection. And perhaps while we're here, we'd like to do opposite hand to opposite elbow. And we'll just allow ourselves a few moments. And maybe we can begin to draw those arms and wrap them around the legs, seeing if we can find opposite hand to opposite elbow here behind the legs. And if we can, maybe we want to begin to reach the elbows towards the heels. This just works that stretch between the upper back between the shoulder blades. And then as we find that availability, maybe we begin to reach the hips gently up towards the sky as we work that stretch into our hamstrings as well. Continuing to find that stomach to thigh connection as we build that natural hinge in the hips. And then gently we'll find that we can release opposite hand from the elbow as we lift to our half forward fold, working that length through the spine first, and then we invite that length into the legs, drawing that stretch through those hamstrings still. We'll find our gentle release into our forward fold, bending the knees, drawing that stomach to thigh connection. And we'll begin to find our way up into our chair posture. The hug of the low belly, that weight into the heels. As we find that strength grounding into this foundation, we're going to make our way into our figure four chair. So we're going to lift our right foot off of the earth. We're going to draw the right ankle up to the top of our left knee. And we're going to find that as we begin to gently release the sit bones towards the earth, we let that stretch draw into that piriformis muscle grouping of our right hip, very similar to our pigeon stretch, as this is what gets us into some really cool stuff as we continue to practice. And then as we allow ourselves to breathe, just letting that stretch into that right piriformis, because it does take approximately 30 seconds for our body to realize that it's even stretching. And gently we'll find that we begin to lengthen through the left leg. We'll release that right foot gently down to the earth, making our way up to our standing Tadasana. We'll gently shake out the legs. And then we'll allow ourselves to gently release into that chair foundation, that weight in the heels, the hug of the low belly, that lengthening through the spine. We'll lift our left foot off of the earth. That left ankle gently draws to our right knee. And then we find that we begin to release into that low chair as we encourage that stretch that's available for ourselves through that left piriformis. Again, we want to continue to lengthen through the spine, so we want to hug the low belly and feel that draw of those floating ribs together as we just work this figure 4 of our chair. And gently, we'll begin to work that length through our right leg as we release our left foot down to the earth, making our way back to our standing Tadasana. We're going to gently shake out the legs, and then we'll step the feet just wider than shoulder distance apart. We're going to turn the toes outward. We're going to hug the low belly and the hands at the heart center as we begin to release the sit bones down towards the earth, making our way into our Malasana squat. And as we find this Malasana squat, the hug of the low belly, the draw of the obliques together as we continue to lengthen through the spine. And then gently we'll find that we release the sit bones to the earth. We'll extend the legs out in front of us as we turn on our mats, as we find our way into our Paschimottanasana. The hug of our low belly lengthens through the spine, and I want us to notice how we move the pelvis forward. That encourages the stretch through the hamstrings. That draws that length across the backside of the hips so that we can stretch through the glutes gently. And then as we find that stretch through the hamstrings and gently through the glutes, we'll gently work the top of the foot in towards the body, stretching through the calves and a little bit more through those hamstrings. And we find that we don't barely have to move the shoulders to get that stretch through the legs. And then as we reach the chest towards those toes, we find we lengthen through the spine further, relaxing the shoulders back and down. Maybe we let that neck relax as the head begins to fall, just with the weight of gravity. And we'll draw the gaze forward. We'll gently work the shoulders up and over the hips. We'll roll one vertebrae at a time onto our backs. We'll bend the knees into the chest. We'll wrap the arms around the shins, giving ourselves a hug of appreciation for everything that we are capable of. And gently we'll extend the arms out to a T. We'll find ourselves releasing the knees over to the right-hand side. Continuing to ground through the shoulders as we invite this spinal twist. Maybe we'll draw the gaze over to our left fingertips. And we'll allow ourselves a few moments here in this spinal twist. And as we gently begin to draw the gaze back up to the sky, the knees back into the chest, we'll begin to release the knees over to our left-hand side, relaxing the shoulders back into the earth as we find that gentle twist through the core. Maybe the gaze begins to draw over to the right fingertips as we complete that spinal twist, allowing ourselves a few moments here. And gently we'll work the gaze back up to the sky. The knees draw back into the chest. We wrap the arms around the shins, giving ourselves that gentle hug of appreciation again. And then we'll relax the arms alongside the body. We extend the legs out in front of us. We just let ourselves begin to melt into our mat, finding that final relaxation here in our Shavasana posture. And as we find this Shavasana, we can begin to draw the awareness of our mind through our body. And I just want us to notice the strengthening and the stretching that we moved through in our practice. And as we continue to relax into our mats, noticing the simplicity at which our breath moves through our body, and as we gently begin to draw some movement into our bodies, perhaps we wiggle the fingers, maybe we roll the wrists and the ankles in circles. We might even stretch as if we had woken from a nap. We'll gently begin to work the knees into the chest as we make our way over onto our right-hand side. And just allowing ourselves a few moments here in this fetal position. And we'll gently begin to make our way to a comfortable seated position. Anything from simple cross-legged to perhaps our adept's posture, our half lotus, whatever is available and comfortable to you. And I just want to thank each and every one of you, because you are absolutely phenomenal, making the decision to practice on your own at home. That ability and that consistency and that discipline that you show. So thank you, and Namaste Yogi.